Question number 1, Mr. John Carlyle.
This morning, I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall be having further meetings later today. This evening, I hope to have an audience of Her Majesty the Queen.
Mr. Carlyle.
Would my right honourable friend agree that the one event that has given, in these troubled times, a lot of pleasure to people, particularly our troops in the Gulf over the last few days, has been the comprehensive English rugby victory at Twickenham last Saturday? In this context, does he further agree that we ought to really begin to think about providing them with some real opposition, which can now only come from South Africa? And therefore, is my friend encouraged by the meeting of Commonwealth foreign ministers over the weekend, which virtually saw the beginning of the end of the infamous Gleneagles Agreement, and will he himself take further initiatives to restore British-South Africa sporting relations?
In answer to my honourable friend's first point, I'm not sure the many Scots troops in the Gulf would necessarily agree with what he had to say. And indeed, I do recall occasions when both the Scots and the Welsh had rather too satisfactory a result at Twickenham and elsewhere. But on the substantive point, I do agree with my honourable friend that time has come to resume sporting links with South Africa in those areas where there is now proper integration of sport within the Republic of South Africa. That is a matter I have discussed with other Commonwealth leaders, and I hope to take it forward.
Neil Kinnock.
Mr. Speaker, since the Secretary of State for Education said today, and I quote him, "I'm not interested in proposals that transfer expenditure on education from the local taxpayer to central government taxation," can the Prime Minister tell us, does he agree with his Secretary of State?
We are examining, as the Right Honourable Gentleman knows, a whole series of options in the Community Charge Review. If the Right Honourable Gentleman will be patient, we will announce the result of that as soon as possible.
But, Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State could not have been clearer in ruling out the idea of transferring expenditure from local taxation to central taxation. So will the Prime Minister make his position clear today? Will he make his position clear on this particular aspect of concern? Does he support his Secretary of State for Education?
I will make the position entirely clear on the matter under review when we have finished the review.
Mr. Speaker, why doesn't the Prime Minister save a great deal of time and the country a huge amount of money by abolishing the poll tax and accepting the Labour Party proposals for a modern system of fair rates? That's the best way to deal with the poll tax.
I am sure the whole country will have heard the Right Honourable Gentleman's remarks with interest. What a shame that when he announced his proposals in Scotland, they did not meet with the acclaim he expected.
Mr. Humphrey Maidens.
My right honourable friend will be aware that the man who was so cruelly murdered by the bomb at Victoria Station yesterday came from Thornton Heath in my constituency and leaves a wife and baby son. Will he send the sympathy of the whole of this House to that family, and will he assure us all that no expense will be spared, that no effort will be spared to bring these callous killers to justice?
I think the whole House will share the views expressed by my honourable friend, and I would certainly like to offer to the family of the gentleman killed and all those other injured our very warmest sympathies. I think one is bound to ask about attacks such as these, what sort of people is it that can carry them out? They certainly are consumed with hate, they're certainly sick of mind, and they can be certain of one thing: they will be hunted and hunted until they are found.
Mr. David Marshall.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Marshall.
Mr. Speaker, with unemployment soaring past 2 million, with record numbers of homeless people and home repossessions, with pensioners freezing to death because of his penny pinching policies, is the Prime Minister not reminded of the tale of the the King's new clothes? Can he tell the House just what is different about his premiership, when it is apparent for all to see that if he is not altogether naked, he is simply wearing the threadbare clothes of the previous Prime Minister?
How?
Order.
I'm not entirely sure they would wholly suit me, but if I may say, on the substantive point, the honourable gentleman has missed something out of his catalogue. He's missed, for example, to mention the work on the £55 million programme to transform a rundown area, for example, of Glasgow's East End. I thought he'd have known that. And he's forgotten also that that will create 1,000 jobs in that part of Glasgow.
Mr. Roger Gale!
My right honourable friend is very aware of the level of public concern that's been expressed about media coverage from particularly Baghdad. Is it not a fact that it is not incumbent upon either the BBC or ITN to sink to the levels of some foreign news companies? And is it not particularly important at this time, with the wives and families of servicemen watching television, that every effort should be made to ensure that the public are well aware that any report coming out of that country is subject to very severe censorship?
I think it is clear to people that reports coming out of Baghdad are subject to censorship, and I hope both the BBC and the other transmission channels will make that clear on every occasion.
Mr. Ken Livingstone.
Number 3, sir.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Livingstone.
In the light of the news from Moscow that President Gorbachev has given Saddam Hussein 48 hours in which to reply to his peace proposals, could the Prime Minister assure the House that no ground war will be launched by the coalition while these negotiations continue?
I don't think the honourable gentleman can seriously expect me to give any information of a military sort here on this occasion or on any other occasion. I certainly can confirm to the honourable gentleman that President Gorbachev did send me late last night the proposals he's put to Tariq Aziz.
Dame Elaine Kellett-Bowman.
Number 4, sir. 5, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Dame Elaine Kellett-Bowman.
Has my right honourable friend seen this excellent annual report by the North West Region Hospital Authority, of which I sent him a copy? If he has, he will have seen that the health districts of Lancaster and Blackpool top the league in immunisation for children under 2 for diphtheria. They are also lowest in the death rates for cancer. Would he join me in congratulating all those concerned, the administrators, the doctors, the nurses, the ancillary staff, and all concerned in achieving this splendid team effort?
Yes, I have seen the brochure my honourable friend sent to me, and I do congratulate all those concerned in the Blackpool and Lancaster districts on their achievement on immunisation rates and on the low death rates from cancer. The national target for immunisation is 90%, and that has been achieved. I think it is worth mentioning to the House that accelerated immunisation schedule for younger children and the introduction of the new GP's contract should further improve the uptake of immunisation figures national-wide. And it is becoming clear that the health reforms are improving preventative medicine in a remarkable way.
Mr. Archie Cackwood.
Mr. Speaker, has the Prime Minister, reverting to the question of the poll tax review, has the Prime Minister yet had a chance to study reports on progress being made to date on the internal government review of the poll tax in today's press? Is he aware that these reports imply that those involved, there is no one involved in those review negotiations who is in favour of now retaining the poll tax? If that is true, does he not have a duty to make an early statement to this House and to the country that whatever options are still being considered, the poll tax is now well and truly effectively ruled out?
We will make a statement at the end of our review and not before.
Harry Greenway. Number 6, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Mr. Greenway.
Mr. Speaker, sir, is my right honourable friend aware that his commitment to an excellent education for all our children is widely supported and welcomed throughout this House and throughout the nation? To this end, is he not very pleased that he's had chance during his busy day today to have read Her Majesty's Inspector's report, indicating that the first year of national curriculum maths is going extremely well for 5-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and throughout the age range, and that children and teachers are working really well to this end. Will you congratulate them?
Yes, I'm happy to do as my honourable friend suggests. The report does demonstrate that the national curriculum has stimulated a whole range of improvements in schools, and that teachers have worked hard to take advantage of the opportunities. That could only be to the benefit of the children, and I look to see it continue.
Dawn Primarolo.
Number 7, sir.
I refer the honourable lady to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Primarolo.
Given the expected statement this afternoon by the Secretary of State for Environment in giving poll tax exemptions to forces serving in the Gulf, will the Prime Minister this afternoon now agree to extend exemption to all deserving groups from this vicious tax, for example, the nurses?
Well, I think the honourable lady and her colleagues would carry more weight in the community charge matter when all of them pay their community charge and their fair share of local government taxation. The honourable lady, I have no doubt, will already have done so. Insofar as alleviation from the community charge is concerned... Oh! The honourable lady has not done so. I'm pleased to note that, and I hope others will have noted it too. Insofar as helping people are concerned, the community charge reduction scheme will help 18 million people who face community charge bills.
Michael Knowles. Number 8, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Michael Knowles.
Despite the scaremongering from some local authorities, could I welcome the community charge release scheme? And could my right honourable friend comment upon the effects as it's seen across the country? If he did have the figures available for Nottingham in particular, both I and my constituents would welcome them.
As my honourable friend knows, the community charge relief scheme will make a very significant difference to a large number of people this year, with over 18 million people being eligible for rebates under the new scheme. If Nottingham City Council will set their level at the same level next year that they did this year, a couple who lived in an averagely rated property could get a reduction of £238 between them.
Mr. Dennis Turner.
Would the Prime Minister care to comment on a recent statement made by the Honourable Member for Harlow, in which he said that unless substantial funds were made available to the National Health Service before the end of the financial year, then elderly people and other groups could die? Does he agree with that statement?
I recall
Order. I couldn't hear it myself.
The honourable gentleman will be pleased to know that my honourable friend indicated behind me that he said no such thing. I refer my honourable friend to the answer that I gave some moments ago.
Dame Jill Knight.
I ask the Prime Minister whether he has any up-to-date knowledge of the British airmen who were shot down or ejected over enemy territory, and whether he will assure this House that any peace terms which will be accepted will include as a priority the return of those airmen unharmed.
I wish I could say to my honourable friend that I did have the information that she seeks. We have tried repeatedly and thus far have had no success in getting it. I do share my honourable friend's very great concern about Iraq's failure to fulfil its commitments under the Geneva Convention and to grant the Red Cross access to prisoners of war. We remain in constant touch with the International Committee of the Red Cross and are urging them to do everything possible to get the Iraqis to live up to their obligations. I very much agree with my honourable friend that the immediate release of prisoners of war, including our own airmen, must be part of any ceasefire.
Mr. Gavin Strang.
Number 10.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave some moments ago.
Gavin Strang.
If President Saddam Hussein responds to the Soviet peace initiative with an undertaking to withdraw all his forces from Kuwait unconditionally, does the Prime Minister agree that the Allies should respond by stopping the bombing and halting moves towards a ground war in Kuwait?
We're all aware of the proposals, that proposals had been put by President Gorbachev to the Iraqis, and I confirmed that to the House earlier. In his message, President Gorbachev specifically asked me to keep those confidential, and therefore upon those I can offer no substantial comment. But in any case, what we have to bear in mind, as the Honourable Gentleman intimated, that it is the Iraqis who have been asked to respond and not us, and we as yet await any response from them. But nothing has yet happened which would incline us to agree to a ceasefire or pause in the conflict. If Saddam Hussein wants to avoid a land battle, he knows what he must do. He has to withdraw unconditionally and immediately from Kuwait and implement the Security Council resolutions in full. And I must say to the Honourable Gentleman, until and unless he does that, the conflict will continue.
I have a point of order from Mr.